Hey everybody, just gonna be talking about the Sebenza a little bit today. Just wanted to kind of touch bases on how I feel about the brand and why I choose to continue to buy CRK knives and not multiples of a cheaper knife. When people go on the forums or someone's new to knives and before they even get into Spyderco or Kershaw or Benchmade or any of your well-known quality production brand knives, they hear about the Sebenza or the Strider S&G or the XM18, and they all of a sudden the way people talk about them, they're the end-all knives. If you own one of those three or all three of them, those are the trinity. You own a knife, you own a CRK, then that's like top of the line. These are what a lot of people feel are the best of the best. But by best of the best, I think a lot of people who are new to knives or new to the idea of spending $400 on a pocket knife, that it's not, to a lot of people's opinions, they favorite this knife. I think, it's not because it's going to cut, the best or it's going to be better than any other knife. It's all kind of relative and subjective. But Chris Reeve Knives has gained a following for good reason. It's not because it's a bandwagon thing and everyone's hopping on because everyone's getting one and everyone's blowing air saying, these are just, the best knives. When it comes down to it, you're not paying for a tool that's going to cut any better than a, $15 knife or a $5 garage sale knife. I mean, you sharpen up a $5 Chinese made, knife, it's going to cut paper just as well as Sebenza. Maybe the edge retention won't be as long or whatnot, but basically the moral what I'm trying to get at is that you're not really paying $400 for a tool that's going to cut better than anything else. I mean, my $20 Swiss Army knife here has a very thin blade. It's just some stainless steel, nothing fancy, but it's going to cut just as well as a Sebenza does. My $30 Spyderco Dragonfly is going to be able to cut just as well as Sebenza. And then of course you have, the still more expensive knives, but like a Sage 2, same properties, titanium, S30V blade. But once again, it's just as a Sebenza, it's gonna cut all the same. I mean, this Sage cut paper and this $20 Swiss Army knife cut paper, and Sebenza, they can cut paper. You don't see like such a huge difference. I mean, there are some things, the fact that it has a high hollow grind and a really thin blade, that will make up for a bit of a better slicer, cutter, or whatnot. But I mean, when it comes down to the price, it's really going to be subjective to you personally. To one person, this may be their favorite knife of all time. To another person, they will turn around and be like, Sebenza is not all that. It is, not the coolest knife. It is just a knife. You're paying $400 when you can spend $160 and get a Sage 2 that will cut the same and be of superb quality. And it really is. I mean, the Sage 2 is a very, very good knife. If you guys have been following my channel, you guys know that I like the Sage the best of all the Spydercos, and the Sage 2, exactly, of the Sage series, it is the Sage 2 that is my all-time favorite from Spyderco. And I mean, that's just because they've incorporated insanely ergonomic handle into a titanium Reeve integral lock with a very nice full flat grind of S30V. Now, titanium and S30V is just becoming more and more affordable. When S30V first came out, it was revered as a very high-end steel, very superb. But as technology grows and science and whatnot, and there's plenty steels, such as like S90V, that is, considered super steels that are just supposed to be way beyond S30V. S30V is almost common now, really, in a lot of knives. It's pretty common to see S30V on your regular production knives. So, I mean, you're not really paying for the materials either. So, I mean, if you can get titanium and S30V for $160, why are you spending $385 for S30V and titanium? A lot of people will argue that right off the bat. And, fact of the matter is you truly have to just get one in hand to truly understand. And even then, you may not. I mean, you can spend $385 on this, and you can open it and close it, and you'll be like, you know, yeah, I can feel that there is a slight quality difference between that and, you know, a Sage 2, or perhaps a lot more quality than, you know, a $50 Delica. But is it truly worth, you know, $385? I mean, I can get 8 Delicas for the price of one Sebenza. But I mean, the way I look at it is that I get more personal value and satisfaction out of one good quality knife that I value than having like many cheaper lower end knives. And now to say that this is cheaper and lower end, by no means do I mean it's a bad knife. This is a really good knife, and obviously I would not have this in my collection still if it was not. I mean, for the price range, Spyderco is near unbeatable for the materials that you get and for the quality and the customer service and whatnot. It's all inclusive, and Chris Reeve is just kind of cream of the crop when it comes to that, for me at least. And it really is truly just attention to detail. Just it's really a form of art. All knives in general. I mean, to think of something like this and to think of something like this, I mean, it truly is an art within itself. And the Sebenza by Chris Reeve has been a design that's been refined for years, and I think it's really paid off. The pocket clip being a solid piece of titanium, having that extra dip here for extra protection to keep your knife from falling out. Very deep, low riding, lanyard if you'd like. I mean, not trying to make this a review, but just throwing out the subtle things. I mean, you got just 3 screws here. You know, sure, the Sage has just 3 screws as well, but these are all Torx bit. I mean, you have the simplicity of an Allen wrench that's included with it. And the way that I really like is how these female screws here act as standoffs, and the screws seat into these cylinders that, you know, second as the standoffs. So you're only dealing with one-sided screws that pop out. So it's just very, very easy to take apart and put back together. And easily the smoothest knife I have in my collection. There's only one other knife that I've had that's been smoother than a Sebenza, and that's my Buck TNT that I'd previously owned. And I'm convinced that the reason why it was smoother than this is A, I use CRK grease to put into that, and 2 is that the washers on the Sebenza are bronze, you know, metal, and the Buck TNT are Teflon, which is plastic. So plastic against metal is going to be smoother than the bronze washers against titanium. But I mean, even still, this is like ridiculously buttery smooth, ridiculously tight lockup. I mean, there's just zero play. I've never had any play on a Chris Reeve knife, and their warranty is just near unbeatable. When it comes to these knives, they really take care of you. And yeah, like I said, the attention's to detail. The anodized blue thumb stud, spacer here, the stonewash blade, the super high hollow grind. And you know, like I said, a lot of these features you can get on a cheaper knife, but the fit and finish, the tolerances of how tightly put together this knife is, there really is no other production brand company that puts out knives with the tolerances of these Sebenzas and just CRK knives in general, whether it be a Menundi or Umnumzon, just any CRK folder. And so, I mean, in my opinion, they truly are worth it for me. The feeling that I have when I open and close them, how smooth they are, subtle clicks, just the way they feel in my hand, the way they carry so slim. I mean, there's just a lot of blade for how small the knife is. I mean, you get the Delica here, and cutting edge wise, the Delica has even shorter edge than that of the small Sebenza. Yet you can see the handle there is much longer on the Delica. And I can have its ups and downs, but for me, my knife uses are light to medium, and I don't, you know, live in the forest or anything. I'm pretty much in the city and suburbs, and I just don't need a really beefy knife or anything that's overly extravagant. And so these knives in particular fit that role perfectly. Super slim, fit a lot of blade, really thin hollow grind, which is great for slicing, and that's pretty much all I need a knife for, is to slice when I'm cutting. And of course, you know, with Chris Reeve, you have the options of upgrading, doing Damascus blades, or you can upgrade to you can buy Sebenzas with inlays. There's lots of options, but I mean, for me, Chris Reeve Sebenza, it's I'm not paying the extra dollars for a knife that's going to cut better. I'm not paying for the extra dollars for, you know, a knife that's going to blow another knife out of the water material-wise, because titanium and S30V, as proven by Spyderco and several other kind of, I don't want to say substitute, but other similar types of knives using titanium reeve integral locks and S30V. I mean, if you can have it for 160, the same materials, you know, once again, why is it 385? And I think part of it is too, you know, Chris Reeve knives, you're paying partially for the reputation. You're paying for the tolerances. I mean, these knives are hand fitted to each titanium slabs to ensure that lockup is within spec according to Chris Reeve, and all the blades are hand ground and finished. So there is a lot of manual hand labor that goes into putting these together as well. So, I mean, this video is not about convincing you guys to buy a Chris Reeve knives. In fact, it's more of a video just to inform you guys of what really they're about. It's not about cutting better than a lot of other knives, because, you know, full flat grind is argued to cut just as well, or if not better, than a hollow grind. Or obviously, if you have a $50 knife that's been edge pro'd to, you know, 30 degrees inclusive, you got 15 degrees on each side, this is going to easily slice as well, if not a little better than Sebenza. But it's really the fit and finish, the ease of taking it apart, just how slim the package is, that pocket clip that I like. It's really subjective to that of the owner, but I mean, until you've actually carried one and used one, I don't really want to say it's safe to judge these knives before you try one. And if you never want to try one, I mean, that's up to you. It's a lot of money to be spending on a knife, and this is obviously a hobby that you have to thoroughly enjoy if you're going to be spending anything, you know, even over $100. Most people would cringe at the fact that this was $50, you know. So I mean, it is really all relative and subjective to the user. So anyways, guys, that's just my rant about the Chris Reeve Sebenzas and Chris Reeve products in general, and the idea of spending this kind of money on a pocket knife. You definitely have to be an enthusiast if you're spending this kind of money on a pocket knife, and it does take a certain amount of appreciation and value into what goes into these products to fully appreciate what you're paying for. And if you don't fully appreciate it or value it, then that's your personal opinion, and you can easily move them along. But anyways, guys, that's enough for now. And yeah, any questions or anything on the Sebenza, or post your thoughts on what you think. Alright, guys, take it easy.